You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So could your spouse, who is spending multiple hundreds or thousands of dollars a year for their Ozempic, turn around and divorce you? So there's some terms we need to talk about. There's Ozempic divorce. There's also Ozempic personality. And so I'll explain what those are. Originally, Ozempic divorce was spoken about where it suggested that your spouse is going to now lose all this weight, start becoming a 2 and turn into a 10, become hot stuff, that now they get self-confidence going, well, I don't need to be with you. I could get whoever I want and leave you. All right. That's one aspect of Ozempic divorce. Another aspect of Ozempic divorce is people are reporting getting an Ozempic personality. These weight loss drugs, Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy, Zepbound, that they end up getting a personality. And this personality may lead to them divorcing you. So for those of you sitting there going, why am I spending $6,000 to $10,000 a year for my spouse to do this just to leave me? I don't blame you. That's a concern. So what is this Ozempic personality? Well, they say that if you are looking at food and going, meh, you're looking at alcohol or the idea of going out and drinking and partying up as nah, that you might be eventually with these medications having anhedonia, which is inability to find pleasure in things. And scientifically, they're looking at this because if these GLP-1 agonists are working on the hormones that affect your satiety and your dopamine reward center as it pertains to food and sugar and alcohol, that it's not that far difficult to perceive that it could also affect that as it pertains to other pleasures. And so many people are reporting that when they're on it, they're not necessarily depressed, although, yes, some people can have depression on these medications, especially if they're in the bathroom all the time with gas and diarrhea and all that. But that they're just, but let's go out. Let's hang out with people. Let's go out. I don't want to. And, is it the medication that could be affecting your reward centers? Or is it that you're starving yourself? Many individuals who are on these medications, they're just not eating. Well, if you're not eating and you're malnourished, you're going to be, meh. I've never knew the term meh, M-E-H, but now I can't stop using it. I'll like describe watching a movie or a show, and I'm like, meh. Meh. I guess that's where it's from. So, I am noticing with patients, not so much the anhedonia. I am noticing the anxiety because you have patients who are so worried that the insurance or the pharmacy doesn't have the medication. They need a refill. And if they go 1 or 2 days without it, their hunger spikes back up. So I am seeing Ozempic anxiety. But you're going to see all these terms, Ozempic personality, Ozempic divorce, Ozempic anxiety, Ozempic depression. What we're doing with now millions of Americans taking these drugs is we are diving into an area that I don't think the human biology is ready for. And I'm seeing some bodies reject it. This is why some of you are having severe GI side effects. I'm seeing people vomiting. I have patients call all the time going, I need more Zofran. I'm like, what's wrong? Do you have norovirus, which, by the way, is going around? Norovirus is going around. Is this COVID-related nausea? Do you have gallbladder issues? No, I'm just not tolerating my Ozempic. Like, well, how long have you been on nausea medicine for? Oh, about a year. You can't, it's not sustainable. You can't do that. And so you might be losing weight. And I understand. Trust me, if you told me, Dahlia, I could help you lose 20, 30 pounds. I know I need to lose more, but still, let's just go with that for now. Okay. All right. We don't have to be that accurate. I can help you lose 20, 30 pounds. but you might not find Viggo Mortensen attractive. I'd be like, oh gosh, you mean I might never want to watch Lord of the Rings again? Yes, if I gave you this medication to lose 20, 30 pounds, you might look at Lord of the Rings and go, meh. Now, that would frighten me because I love Lord of the Rings. I'm like, listen, I don't want to change my brain, but to lose 20, 30 pounds, I might say goodbye to Aragorn temporarily until I gain the weight back and have to go back, until I gain the weight back, get depressed, and then I have to go and watch Lord of the Rings to cheer up again. We're letting not only these drugs manipulate us, but we're letting the media manipulate us. We're letting the pharmaceutical companies manipulate us. I told you, when you really look at these studies, they say that people lost 10% of their body weight. And you're like, wow, 10% of their body weight. Oh my gosh. So that what that means is somebody who's 170 pounds lost 17 pounds. That's a lot of weight. But if you're looking to lose 60 pounds, not sure if that's where it's gonna, if that's the drug that's gonna do it. On average, they're saying people are losing about 20, 25 pounds. Again, that's a fantastic. If you can lose 20, 25 pounds, you'll be happier, you'll be healthier. But if you're like, I need to lose 80, you got another thing coming. So we talked about last week, or I think earlier this week, about how Medicaid in many states is now starting to drop it, because it's a lot of money, and if people aren't maintaining their weight loss, and if they don't have enough money and they have to choose between somebody's cancer treatment and Ozempic, some of them are just saying, look, let's just limit it to those whose BMI is over 40, who are morbidly obese. If your BMI is over 40, and let's say you weigh about 400 pounds, losing 20 pounds is nice, but you're still going to be 380 pounds. So my recommendation to you is, before you start, and a lot of you guys are looking at, should I do this? We got the summer coming. I want to be in a bikini. I get it. Listen, I would love to be in a bikini again. Not going to happen. Okay, I am okay with saving money and being in a one piece. That's fine. If my husband leaves me, he could go find a bikini. But it doesn't matter how much weight I lost. I'm not going to look good in a bikini. Okay, I'm 35 years old. Also, I lie a lot about my age. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Let's face it, guys. We're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Dahlia. As many of you know, I lost another colleague to suicide. And tragically, tens of thousands of Americans, including hundreds of physicians, take their lives each year. Why is suicide so common? Why doctors? Even medical students have alarming suicide rates. Nurse burnout is at an all-time high. Maybe it's the monstrous workloads we face every day. Maybe it's because of burnout, malpractice suits, online reviews. Medicine has changed so rapidly that it's almost unrecognizable to those of us who entered this field and wanted to take it by storm. But there's not a lot of resources out there for healthcare providers who deny that they are struggling or at risk. So my book, The Depressed Doctor, aims to change that for both the physician and medical student and anyone else who is struggling. Find The Depressed Doctor on Amazon or at drdahlia.com. And if you are currently struggling, call or text 988, the National Suicide Prevention and Crisis Hotline. Don't wait. The silence is killing us. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So a couple nights ago, my husband will watch YouTube videos, and they'll talk about the Iran war. They'll talk about anything, what happened with the battleships, volcanoes. He just likes to, I guess he goes to YouTube now instead of PBS, right? And he watched a video, and at the end of the video, because now you get YouTube on your TV, I'm just kind of working and doing some stuff. And I guess at the end of the video, it said, if you like this video, watch the next one on this subject. And my son was walking through the room at the time, and my husband goes, I like this guy. I like his videos. This guy does a good job. And my son goes, that's AI. And he's like, that's not a real person who's narrating? He said, no, that's 100% AI. Now, okay, my husband is Gen X, kind of an older Gen X. He's not taking this AI stuff too good. He'll see a picture or a meme or a video and go, Dahlia, you got to look at this. Isn't this incredible? And I'm like, that's AI. That's not real. And he's not liking that. Okay, he wants to be able to look at something and trust it. And it's he'll be fine. But me, I already got over that. It bothered me that I could look at something that was computer generated and it wasn't real. But as I'm watching these commercials. See, now I'm just assuming everything is AI until proven otherwise. Isn't there a Jurassic Park? Isn't there some sort of a commercial where they take the original Jurassic Park actors like Laura Dern and Jeff Gold, the one that did The Fly, and the guy from Hunt to Red October, and they're in this commercial. And they're trying to make them look as young as they did in the 90s. And it was all, and I don't know what the commercial's about. I just, see the Jurassic Park part of it. That shows how bad the AI commercial is if I don't even know what the product is. I remember that it's a Jurassic Park themed commercial. I just don't remember what the heck the commercial's about. And it's, again, AI. AI is being used in CGI and special effects and so I'm watching, especially in Hollywood and medicine and even academia and all that, where AI is getting much more proliferative, and it's learning as it goes. It's getting better than it was last week and 2 weeks ago. And so I'm thinking the AI apocalypse is going to be a huge wave that, we just see, month or week after week and month after month, more jobs get cut. Well, MIT is challenging that thinking. MIT, according to Axios, is challenging the AI apocalypse narrative. They actually did a study. It's interesting. So they want to push back on fear-based narratives, although I bet they used AI to help do their study. But that's just, because it's MIT. I'm sure MIT is using AI. But anyway, remember, MIT is going to lose a lot of money if people don't think they could go to MIT and then become an engineer and have their job long term. So I think there is a little bit of secondary gain when you have an academic institution. However, I do respect studies that come out of MIT. And so they wanted to challenge how AI is advancing across the workforce like a rising tide, more than a crashing wave. Now, I've seen rising tides. Yeah, they might move slower. But when I hear that Disney is firing 1,000 people, when I'm hearing these doctors are losing jobs, and because they're starting to use more telemedicine and AI-generated diagnoses and all that, to me, it's a crashing wave. But they want to say it's more of a rising tide. So what did they do? MIT researchers identified 11,500 tasks in the U.S. Labor Department's database and created multiple instances of each. They were then run through more than 40 AI models using workplace-style prompts. They had workers in those fields evaluate more than 17,000 AI-generated outputs as to whether they were good enough to use without edits. In 2024, AI models could complete roughly 50% of text-based tasks at a minimally acceptable level, rising to 65% by 2025. So they say based on that rate of going from 50% to 65%, rising 15% in a year, they said at this pace, AI could handle 80 to 95% of text-based tasks by 2029, which means the apocalypse wouldn't happen this year. Well, that's reassuring. And they say that even if it's 2029, it's only at a quote-unquote good enough level. And good enough does not necessarily mean reliable. They say high-quality, error-free work remains much harder and is a gap that continues to trip up real-world deployments. According to Axios, recent examples include Deloitte's error-filled AI-generated report for Canadian province and Klarna's pullback from AI-led customer service. So they said AI has the lowest success rate in legal work because of the need for precision, judgment, and strategic guidance. You would think it would have the lowest rate in medicine, but they say legal work. The highest success rate, 73%, was across installation, maintenance, and repair tasks because of technology's ability to automate the administrative pieces of manual work, like troubleshooting and documentation. In media, arts, and design, it had a 55% success rate, proving useful for drafting and ideation. Meanwhile, AI has a 53% success rate for managerial tasks like planning, writing, analysis, but it's weak when it comes to coordination, judgment, and decision making. So you might look at this on the outset and go, oh, you see, Dr. Dahlia, AI is not good enough. None of those percentages were 80%, 90%, so we're good. No, we're not, and I tell you why. Because employers and companies do not fear the half-assed. I have seen companies use subpar tech, subpar software, hire people because they were desperate, who weren't trained to do a job. And so mediocrity is not shall we say, a contraindication to using AI. If a company is in dire straits and wants to save money and they have to fire staff and do something, telling them that this AI software is working at 55%, they'll take it. That's the problem. This is what I'm seeing with telemedicine companies. They're having people go online, give their disease. A doctor sees it, but the AI gives a recommended diagnosis. The diagnosis, and I've even said, I don't think the diagnosis is correct. I'm going to change the diagnosis. But the process is still there. They're still doing that. Did they throw out the AI? Did they say, oh, we're wrong? Looks like AI doesn't work? No, even with the percentage of it being wrong, they're still working with it. Because that's what companies do. So thinking, wow, legal work, only 47% success rate. I don't think that's going to stop a legal firm that's trying to save money. In medicine, if you at all misdiagnose, it's life or death. And we are seeing hospitals and medical centers and companies use AI despite it not being 100%. Their argument, well, humans aren't 100%. At least if we have a problem, we could go and then sue a company that it was their software. It's all, how can we shift the blame? See, I just don't want anything half-assed. I don't want anything mediocre. But when you have staff that might not be working at 100%, these companies feel like they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. And if they're going to be damned either way or the other, they'd rather be damned not with lower payroll than higher payroll. You can fire AI and not get sued. In fact, we're going to be talking about later, there's a study, or there's a lawsuit where older individuals got targeted with the return to work. The idea of not being able to work remote targeted older people. And because the company said we needed to hire younger people, now there's a lawsuit. AI, you have AI, an AI platform won't sue you. Trust me, the apocalypse is coming if it's not already here. Thank you, MIT. I'm glad that you looked at the accuracy. I think this is very valuable, but I don't think this is going to change anything. If a company needs to save money, they're going to save money. If they don't think the kids are learning that well with the AI, do they care? How many times have I seen academicians not care if the person actually learned the material or not? When employers embrace mediocrity, this is what happens. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com.
Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So remember I told you when I was in Omaha, there was a guy that was apparently having a medical event, but everybody thought he was homeless as he was halfway out his car. And his legs were in another person's parking place as they were trying to grab a parking place. And I go over to him and I'm like, guys, this guy's unresponsive. This is a medical issue. Luckily, somebody had already called, the paramedics, but he had been there for I don't know how long. When EMS and your emergency medical services and system can only, be activated if somebody activates it. And there's a study looking at response times. And it's interesting to see how California actually ranked the worst with response time. And, the response time could be related to a variety of factors, traffic, distance, but also if somebody doesn't call them, that's a problem. We talked about how assume everything is a medical emergency rather than somebody passed out due to drugs or passed out due to alcohol. Because even if somebody is passed out, they could still die. Look what happened to Prince. Look at these college students that aspirate their own or drown in their own vomit. So seeing somebody passed out, if you don't know what's going on, I would still call, emergency medical services. But if you live in one of these states where emergency medical response time is slower than others, you might want to think if you need an ambulance, you might want to look at living somewhere else. Interestingly, California had, according to LendingTree, the slowest response time, 19.6 minutes. 20 minutes, that's a long time. Now, if you have bystanders performing CPR on you, helping institute first aid, that you may survive. But nowadays, no, bystanders don't want to touch you. They don't want to get sued. They don't want to be accused of assault. They don't want to get attacked by you. So nobody wants to approach somebody. So in California, that could be pretty scary. Wyoming, LendingTree said the average response time was 17.8 minutes. North Dakota, 15.7. Oklahoma, 15.5. Alabama, 14.5 minutes. Then came Mississippi, South Dakota, West Virginia, Montana, and Louisiana. Now, in terms of some of the best, it looks like D.C. had some of the fastest EMS response times. Then came Massachusetts. Then came Nevada. Very cool. Nevada tied with Rhode Island. I don't see where. So Rhode Island, Nevada were both 3 and 4. Then came New Jersey, Connecticut. Looking at the numbers here: Colorado, Delaware, Ohio, and Illinois. They say where and when a crash happens can also influence how quickly EMS arrives. So yeah, I mean, if you are in rush hour, if it's rush hour, that's a problem. If you are in rural areas, that's an issue. But interestingly, with California, not a lot of rural areas compared to Montana. And so still, interestingly, how with California, it had the higher response time. They said the average EMS response time in rural areas is 13.3 minutes, compared with 7.6 minutes in urban areas. So if there are crashes, interestingly, one of my friends grew up in Arkansas. And he said when they needed to call an ambulance, he had like a really bad asthmatic attack. They were at the time in the 80s, they had told the family to start driving him to the road from where their house was, because it would save time if they could meet the ambulance part way, which I agree. Rather than them wait and then the time gets extended by EMS, if you aren't going to get into an accident and you live in a rural area and on a rural road, start getting towards the highway and start getting towards an area where then the ambulance could find you and take you. I mean, obviously it was at a landmark where the ambulance knew where to see them. But that's what they had to do, because otherwise it would take an extra 20, 30 minutes for EMS to get to you. Now, what does it look like in terms of day? Well, they looked at the average EMS response time by day. Midnight, if you had your medical emergency between midnight and 1 a.m., it took about 9.5 minutes. 1 a.m., about 10 minutes. As you started getting to the early morning, then it would be up to about 11 minutes. And now as I'm looking towards midday, still about 10 minutes. Then as you get to the early evening, 9 minutes. Didn't look like much of a difference, because by 11 p.m. it was back up to 10 minutes. So I can't really tell you when the best time to call EMS, but they found that the slowest response time was between 4 and 5 a.m. at 11.4 minutes, but the fastest between 9 and 10 p.m. Early morning crashes may also be more dangerous because of driver fatigue and road conditions, and maybe the response time could also be, when are their busy times? When are they busy and dealing with many more issues, and in terms of staffing, etc. So I don't want to scare you guys, but looking at the EMS response times that Lending Tree is doing, I think it's a pretty good study. And California, you would think, would have one of the fastest, but they don't. So what do we need to do? Well, one is we need to look at the staff. They are concerned about staffing shortages. In California, they're looking at funding priorities, access gaps, disaster response services. The rural areas will usually suffer more than the inner city. But I'm also seeing that the people don't move for ambulances. When I hear or see the siren, I move to the right and I stop my car. And I am seeing people just go into the intersection. Is it because our music is so loud? I might not always hear. If I have the music going on, I might not hear the paramedics. But maybe that's going to eventually be a rule in these cities, where you're going to need to shut the music off or have the music at a low level. I can't tell you how many times I would be pulled over, but I didn't know I was being pulled over until they honked the obnoxious horn. I got sound from the police car, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're behind me with the lights on? I didn't notice because I wasn't paying attention. I was, the music was on. I was singing. If you do have an emergency responder and they can't get around your stupid car, that's going to slow things down. Now, what do you do as a patient? Okay, we know the cities and these states have to get their act together, but what if your response time is 20 minutes? Well, you need to have a discussion with your family. You also need to make sure you're not alone. That guy that was getting out of his car and looks like had a medical event and people thought he was homeless in Omaha, if he was with somebody would have advocated for him. And somebody would have, been able to say, look, this is a medical emergency, get help. If you have somebody with you, that's going to get you faster response because they're advocating for you. Something's wrong. Help him. So try not to be alone. There's safety in numbers. Number two is train people around you. I would train my kids. If I ever fell or collapsed, because when my dad died of a heart attack, my mom didn't know what to do. She didn't know CPR, so she called the ambulance and just stared at him. And she was in shock, but she didn't know CPR. Now, we think he had a widowmaker, a left anterior descending artery plaque rupture that caused him to have a sudden MI and go into cardiac arrest and die. But what if she was able to do CPR and keep him alive long enough? So I taught my kids, this is how you do CPR. You guys are going to get CPR certified. You're gonna find a phone and call 911. Since you guys are too young, they were young at the time, didn't have a phone. Go into mom's pocket. Mom always has her phone in this pocket. Go into the pocket and call 911. Roll me on the side to make sure I'm breathing. You teach the family things to do. You have a plan. This is who you call. Call grandma. Call dad. But have plans. And then maybe if you do have somebody in the family that suffers from cardiac issues, you may want to have a defibrillator at the house. The more you know, the more you could learn, the more you could institute medical care. Understand about safety. If somebody's electrocuted, not touch them. But maybe you could use like something of wood to move them away from the electrical current or shut the power off. I mean, there's a lot of things that we could do. How to stop the bleeding, how to provide a tourniquet. But it looks like we families are going to have to, if it's going to take 20-minute response time, we're going to have to do a lot of work on our own. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did, and just maybe someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, the U.S. naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz doesn't necessarily mean they're physically in the strait, but them blocking Iranian ports so far seems to be going okay, right? Iran is at the table talking. In fact, they've actually moved to having an Israel-Lebanon ceasefire. Trump says the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is going to start within hours. It's supposed to last 10 days. Israel is under pressure to do this. Hezbollah is who they're. Israel doesn't want to bomb Lebanon. They are trying to attack Hezbollah, who is a terrorist group that is funded by Iran. It's obviously suspicious, right, and obvious why Iran keeps bringing up Hezbollah and Lebanon in this. I mean, if Iran is just worried about Iran, if they don't have anything to do with terrorism or terrorist groups, then why are they demanding that Israel stops attacking Hezbollah, who attacks them? And so that's, I mean, we're not stupid. We know what Iran is doing, and we know Iran funds these terror cells. So Israel needs to take advantage of the situation and try to put a stop to Hezbollah, Hamas, etc. But at this point, because U.S. needs to move forward and try to end this war, they have asked Israel to stop. And so that's part of the agreement. Now, Israeli military sources are not going to withdraw from southern Lebanon during the ceasefire, but they might stop attacking Hezbollah, or unless, of course, Hezbollah still attacks them. So this ceasefire, has been kind of, people have been back and forth on that, going, the longer they do this, the more Iran can regroup, But then again, if Iran how does the end of this war look? I mean, I'm no military expert, right? That's not my forte. But I do know what happens when somebody gives up. And if somebody is about to give up, they want to negotiate. So the end of this war, I know in the movies or in video games, there's a big explosion, there's the big bomb, and then everything's all done. No, actually, at the end of a war, there's the means of Versailles, or there's a Articles of Versailles, or there's a meeting that takes place, and so Iran, I know we're calling it a ceasefire, but they're close to surrendering, and that's how I look at it. And this is something that means we are moving forward. Now, the military, though, is not going to let the guard down. Okay. Pete Hegseth said that we are ready to strike Iran's power plants and energy industry ready to go if that is the order. Hegseth says Iran needs to choose wisely as it prepares for negotiations with the United States. If Iran is smart, and I know they want to be able to see whoever is going to negotiate with America and say, okay, fine, we're not going to have nuclear weapons, they're going to be dead by whoever is remaining with the Revolutionary Guard. And we still don't know exactly who is in charge over there. But they're going to be dead anyway if they don't, and if they don't come to an agreement, because America will attack. Israel will attack. And being that they're attacking United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, I mean, they could attack too. So when you're dealing with a country that funds terrorism, it's not going to be it's not going to be a very logical thinking pattern that they have. So what they're thinking of is, well, how do we end this still on a high note? And what's very concerning, the reason why the U.S. did Operation Midnight Hammer months prior is because they knew that if we did move in to try to help Iranians remove their National Guard, Iran would quickly go to push the red button. And we had to ensure that they didn't have their nuclear weapons to go to. I know it looks like Trump has been very chaotic. And as I said, I'm no military expert, but for them to do Operation Midnight Hammer, to precede this, it's not that, Operation Midnight Hammer failed, and so now we have to go back and do step 2. They wanted to ensure that if this did move forward, he was going to address the Iranian issue after all these decades, because nobody else did. He had to make sure that the nuclear capacity was not going to be a threat. Once they annihilated that threat, then they were able to move in. Now, does Iran still have some tricks up their sleeves? Well, they showed all their cards as it pertains to the Strait of Hormuz. Do they still have a nuclear weapon hiding? I don't know. And Trump seems to think no. And, their Navy has been demolished, their Air Force has been demolished. But one fear I have is that Iran could try to go down with a bang. But if they don't have anything to bang with, then they're going to, if they're smart, try to get some concessions because they lost. They lost. America's already won. It's just how do we get Iran to admit they lost and then back up? We as Americans can't be dealing with and running the Strait of Hormuz. That's not our job. But this economic pressure that's not causing any loss of life is pretty damn good. Apparently, dozens of U.S. warships and aircraft, as well as 10,000 military personnel, are enforcing the blockade. Now, they're not necessarily physically standing there in the strait or swimming in the strait, but they could be enforcing blockades from miles away. And apparently it's working. And now Iran's ports are restricted. They're not making money. They're getting mad. So, the idea that America is backing off or no, we have moved in. We are poised perfectly. And Iran, has never been hit like this. And it's a shame that the people couldn't help overthrow. I think what Trump was wanting, which is what he said, guys, look at what we did. The Revolutionary Guard is being annihilated. Go ahead and take your country back. But they haven't been able to. Same thing with Gaza. The Palestinians have not been able to kick Hamas out and take Gaza over. Israel's not running Gaza. Hamas is. Just like the Revolutionary Guard is running Iran. And they are still doing mass executions and still hurting civilians. So civilians who are unarmed because they aren't allowed to have arms are still not in a position where they can go and fight. I think Trump was hoping that would be. Then everybody overthrows their government and America could say, you're welcome. We're out of here. You guys take over. But apparently the people can't. Plus, these restrictive governments don't really give a lot of clues on how to run things. Nobody knows how. Well, just like with us in Congress, do we really know how it's run? Now that we're hearing that Swalwell and a lot of Congress people are blackmailed, and how allegedly other Congress people or the leaders know exactly what they're doing, but they hold it over their head, so they always vote for how they want them to. I mean, now that we're here, the average American doesn't even know how to run the government. Because the government has secrets. And in Iran, there are even more secrets. So for the people to take it over, and if they're not formed and you don't have a united front, what do? So that might have been a miscalculation on Trump's part. But in terms of calculating how to not let Iran be a threat, they've been doing pretty good with that. So the Navy ships are going to pursue any Iranian-flagged vessel or any vessel attempting to provide material support to Iran because they want to choke them off. But other ships, that are non-Iranian will still be able to, from what I understand, use the strait. That's what's going on there. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.